Bent's Woodworking is sponsored by Harvey. To find out more about their woodworking tools and equipment, visit their website by clicking the link down in the video description.
Hey everybody, I'm Jason Bent. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to scribe your filler strips for your cabinet projects so they have a nice clean edge to the wall. Before we get started, I am in kind of a tight space, so I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that all of the angles and all of the views and everything are as good as possible so you can walk away from this video feeling confident on doing this same task in the future. So what you see right here is a bathroom vanity that I just built for our upstairs guest room. We just did a complete renovation, and this has been done for about a week now, but I've been waiting till I had some time to actually walk you guys through the steps of this process. And what I have over on this side, which I'll bring you in close here in just a moment to show you, is about maybe a little bit over 1 inch gap that I need to fill with a filler strip. So let's go ahead and jump right into the process, and I'll walk you through step by step of everything that I need to do all the way until the time it is installed. Okay, so the very first step in this process is I need to get some measurements, and the measurements that I need are from the inside wall of the cabinet to the wall that the filler strip is going to be touching. And I'm going to take 3 measurements. I'm going to take one at the top, I'm going to take one in the middle, and I'm going to take one at the bottom. So let's do that real quick. And I will be using metric measurements just because that's what I use, but the same principles apply with whatever measurement system you use. So I've got 42 millimeters here. In the middle, I've got 42. And down at the bottom, it looks like I have 41. So luckily there isn't a big curvature, but it obviously gets a little bit thinner down at the bottom. So my filler strip will not be a perfectly straight line. It'll be a slightly angled line. Now that I have my 3 measurements, I need to take the smallest measurement. So the smallest measurement is down at the bottom, is 41, and that is going to be the width that I cut my strip. Now you might be asking, why don't I just need the distance from the outside of the cabinet to the wall? Well, when I walk you through the steps, when we bring the filler strip back up here, that will make more sense. Okay, so what we have right here, this is my filler strip. This is just a piece of Riffs-On white oak to match the look of the rest of the cabinet. And you can even see here on the edge, this was actually just a cutoff from one of the other pieces, but I knew that this would be wide enough, and this is about to get cut off. And the other thing that I want to point out is that this is already pre-finished. This has the same amount of finish and the same type of finish as the cabinet. So all I have to do is cut this and install it, and it's good to go. So real quick, I just want to take a measurement of how wide my piece is. So I've got about 44 millimeters here, and I've got about 44 millimeters here. So I'm actually going to cut off a little bit. So I'm actually going to cut off this edge right now at the table saw. So going back to the measurements, we had 42 at the top, 42 in the middle, 41 down at the bottom. So we need to cut this to 41 or less. So it can be 40, it could be 39, it could be 35, as long as it fits within that space. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and cut this to, say, 39 or 40 millimeters wide, and then we'll take it back upstairs and walk through the process of how we actually get the line to scribe it. The total height of the cabinet or the filler strip that I need is actually 794 millimeters. So I'll go ahead and trim that up now. And finally, the last thing that we're going to need before we go back upstairs for the scribe is we actually need a scrap cutoff of the exact same material that we built the cabinet box out of. And the reason that's important is because it's about the thickness. So let me just go ahead and cut a small piece of this. Okay, so now we're back upstairs and we're on the cabinet. What we want to do is we want to now place our filler strip to the cabinet, and we want to ensure that it is flush with the inside of the cabinet. And as you can see, there is still a gap here, but that doesn't matter right now. And so now I'm going to share a few different techniques on how you can go about attaching this to the cabinet. So the first, most basic way for you to do this, and the easiest and least expensive way, is to just tape it in place. And so I just want to use some tape, taped out to the cabinet, and then I would go down and I would do that to the top and the bottom, just something to hold it steady. And this works pretty good. The tape will actually allow it to stay in place because I am going to be putting some pressure like this. So this will actually help kind of hold it. But as you can see, it does right off the wall. But as I start to do my scribe, I'm pushing against it and the tape is holding it from coming away from the cabinet. So that's the first way you could do it. The next way is also utilizing tape, but I'm not just gonna use tape, I'm also gonna use some CA glue. And what you could do here is you just take a little bit of CA glue, put it on your tape like that. I would spray some activator onto the opposing piece of tape, and I would just place this right on the tape like so, and apply some pressure for just a quick moment. And I would do that at both the top and the bottom. And then the board stays in place. And when you're done, you can simply peel it off and you're able to remove the tape. And finally, the third method is using these scribe jigs. And honestly, this is my absolute favorite way to do this. I will not be doing it in this demonstration simply because it's gonna push out away from the cabinet too much, but these are just plastic clips that this measurement right here from these two walls is the same thickness as this plywood. And so this slips over like that, and then your filler strip would be screwed in over on this side, and these will hold this in place in order for you to make your scribe. Now, the benefit to these scribe jigs is that the scribe jig actually makes it in perfect alignment with the edge. So you don't really have to like pay too much attention to that, but these are really useful. And like I said, it would just be attached with a screw right here, one at the top, one down at the bottom, and it'll hold your piece in place. All right, so the technique that we're gonna do for the video, just for demonstration purposes, is just gonna be the simplest way, which is taping this to it. The other thing that I want to point out is that you can see here, I did add a piece of tape, and that's honestly just to allow my pencil line to be more visible for when I go back downstairs to the shop and make the cut. So let's go ahead and get this taped in place. Okay, we'll go ahead and start by placing a piece of tape up here at the top, tape it in place down at the bottom, and that should be plenty sturdy for us to go ahead and do the scribe. Okay, so this is where the piece of scrap comes into play. So imagine I was looking at the cabinet like this. So I need to account for the thickness of the side, and that's what this scrap is for. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this as a guide for the pencil to draw the line all the way up the filler strip. That means that we'll be cutting off the thickness of the cabinet side, which the remaining piece will now fit perfectly into that slot. Me personally, I like to start at the bottom and work my way up just nice and slow. Just like this. And now I have a nice, easily visible line all the way down, and that takes us to the next step, which is going to be trimming this to final size. So the next step is to trim down as close to that line as possible without actually touching the line. This is a fairly straight line. There's no major curves or anything like that. So for this application, I'm just going to use the bandsaw because the bandsaw makes very quick work of it. And then we'll move on to the next step. Other things that you could use is a jigsaw. You could use a track saw realistically if you wanted to, especially if you have a line as straight as this. But again, I just like to use the bandsaw. And as you can see here, I cut it just shy of the line. And finally, to finish this off, I like to use my spindle sander and just finely sand up to the line, cleaning up the edges from the cut. And another thing that I do is I actually tilt this table down about 3 to 5 degrees. And what that allows is it creates a back bevel on the filler strip. And so what that helps is it helps make sure that this front edge stays nice and clean to the wall, because let's say that there was an imperfection in the wall and this was a perfectly straight. If that imperfection was, pressing up against that, it could leave a gap. And so that back bevel actually allows to have a really nice, clean look to the wall. All right, let's go ahead and see how this one turned out. This one's a little tricky because I actually got my baseboards installed already. So this bottom piece to go in behind. There we go. For those of you that are wondering, I like mine to be a little bit tight just because it helps with the fit. Now I want to point out, remember before I told you I had that little backer piece in there, and that's to allow this to not go any further, which just makes the install a lot easier. So now it's nice and flush. And now I'm going to take advantage of the area right in front of my hinges. And that's where I'm going to screw it in at, because when I put the doors back on, it's actually going to be hidden. So I'll do that at the top, I'll do that at the bottom. And there you go. Nice tight fit to the wall. I'll go ahead and put the door back on and see what it looks like. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. Hopefully you guys found that information helpful. And to be honest with you, there's tons of different ways that you can do this. I just wanted to show you a few different ways that I've used in the past and that I find really helpful. I'm sure there's gonna be some people out there that watch this video, or people that do this on a daily basis, that are gonna be like, that's the dumbest way to do that. Why would you do that? Why would you use a bandsaw? And here's the bottom line. At the end of the day, the method that I choose works really well for me, and I get really nice, clean results. So like I said, I hope you guys found this helpful, and it'll actually make doing installs of things, in my opinion, quite a bit easier, because you don't have to try to, worry about, is the wall perfectly straight? You can kind of build within the confines, and add these filler strips to give a really nice, clean, professional look. That's going to do it for this video. If you guys want to find out anything else about me and what I do, head over to BENTSWOODWORKING.com. And if you want to see what I'm doing on a daily basis, you can find me at BENTSWOODWORKING on Instagram. As always, everybody, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. And until next time, get out in the shop, try something new, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.